What if I told you that the most dangerous thing in the universe is also the most beautiful? And what if this one word that you've probably sung in church 1,000 times actually reveals the secret to understanding God, death, life, and your own purpose? Stay with me here, because by the end of this conversation, you're going to see the word holy in a completely different way. And honestly, it might just change how you see everything. Now, I know what you're thinking. Holy? Really? That's just church talk for being really, really good, right? Like God got a perfect score on some cosmic morality test, and that's why we call him holy. But here's the thing, and this absolutely blew my mind when I first discovered it. That's not even close to what the word actually means. See, when the ancient writers of the Bible used the word holy, they weren't talking about a moral report card. They were trying to describe something so fundamentally different, so otherworldly, that they had to invent new ways of talking about it. Think about this for a second. How do you describe the color blue to someone who's never seen? How do you explain what thunder sounds like to someone who's never heard? That's exactly the problem these ancient writers faced when they tried to talk about God's holiness. The word holy literally means separate or other. But not separate like choosing vanilla over chocolate ice cream. We're talking about separate like trying to compare a birthday candle to the nuclear fusion happening inside our sun. It's not just a difference in degree, it's a difference in kind entirely. And this brings me to a metaphor that's going to help us understand this whole concept. And it's one that's literally staring us in the face every single day. Our sun. This massive ball of nuclear fire sitting 93 million miles away from us is absolutely essential for life on Earth. Every breath you take, every beat of your heart, every flower that blooms, every tree that grows, it all traces back to the sun's energy. Without the sun, we'd be a frozen rock floating in space. But here's what's wild about this, and I want you to really think about this. That same sun that gives us life would instantly vaporize you if you got too close. The surface temperature is around 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The core? We're talking 27 million degrees. The sun doesn't hate you when it would destroy you, it's just being the sun. Its very nature is both creative and terrifyingly powerful at the same time. Now, the Bible writers looked at this concept and said, that's what God's holiness is like. The creative force behind everything beautiful in existence, but so pure, so powerful, that getting too close in the wrong state would be like flying straight into the sun. But here's where it gets interesting. Because unlike our sun, God actually wants us to get close. He desires intimacy with us. So the question becomes, how do you safely approach something that powerful? Let me paint you a picture of what this looked like in ancient times. Picture yourself as an Israelite living in ancient Jerusalem. You live in the shadow of this massive temple complex, and everyone knows that God literally lives there. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, but literally. The creator of the universe has chosen to make his home in this building. And it's both the most wonderful and the most terrifying thing imaginable. Now imagine you're walking toward this temple. As you get closer, you can feel it. The rules get stricter. The air feels heavier, more charged. In the outer courts, anyone can come. But then there's this wall. And archaeologists have actually found the inscription that was on this wall. It says, and I quote, "No foreigner may enter within the barrier and enclosure around the temple. Anyone who is caught doing so will be responsible for his ensuing death." Death. Just for being in the wrong place. But it gets more intense as we go deeper. Past that wall, only Jewish people could go. Then only ceremonially clean Jewish people. Then only priests. Then only the high priest. And finally, at the very center of it all, the most holy place. A perfect cube covered in gold, containing the Ark of the Covenant. And just once a year, the high priest would enter this room. Picture this moment with me. The high priest, after days of preparation and purification, approaches this room. The entire nation is literally holding its breath. If he's done something wrong, if he's not pure enough, he could die instantly in God's presence. They actually tied a rope around his ankles so they could drag his body out if he didn't come back. This isn't ancient superstition we're talking about here. This is what happens when perfect holiness meets imperfection. It's like matter meeting antimatter. Now, the first time we actually see this paradox of God's holiness in action is way back in the story of Moses and the burning bush. You remember this one. Moses is out in the wilderness, minding his own business, when he sees this bush that's on fire but not burning up. Curious, he starts walking toward it to get a closer look. But then God calls out to him and says, "Take off your sandals, because you are standing on holy ground." Moses covers his face in fear, and God says, "Do not come any closer." It's intense, right? Here's this beautiful, miraculous sight, but Moses can't get too close because God's holy presence makes it dangerous. So naturally, God gave the Israelites a manual for how to handle this reality. The book of Leviticus. And if you've ever tried to read Leviticus, you know it's a lot. Don't touch dead bodies. Don't eat this animal. If you have this skin condition, you're unclean for this many days. If you touch someone who's unclean, now you're unclean too. Take this bath. Offer this sacrifice. Wait this long. And modern people read this and think, what is all this obsessive rule following? But imagine you're that ancient Israelite again. These aren't arbitrary rules. These are survival instructions. This is how you safely exist in proximity to the most dangerous and wonderful force in the universe. It's like, imagine you're the first person ever to work at a nuclear power plant. You don't fully understand radiation, but you know it's incredibly powerful and potentially deadly. So you follow every protocol, no matter how weird it seems, because your life literally depends on it. That's what these purity laws were, protocols for living near nuclear holiness. Now this is where things start to get really interesting, because something begins to shift in these ancient stories. About 700 years before Jesus shows up on the scene, there's this prophet named Isaiah who gets a vision that breaks all the rules. He finds himself standing in the temple, not the earthly temple, but the heavenly one. And he's in the most holy place, which should be impossible. Above him are these creatures called seraphim, which literally means burning ones. And they have 6 wings each. They're flying around shouting, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory." The sound is so powerful that the doorposts shake. Smoke fills the temple. And Isaiah realizes, I'm standing where I should not be standing. I'm seeing what I should not be seeing. He cries out, "Woe to me! I am ruined. I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty." He knows he's about to die. This is it. Game over. But then something unprecedented happens. Something that changes everything we think we know about how holiness works. One of the seraphim flies over with tongs, and in the tongs is a burning coal taken directly from the altar in God's presence. This coal is so holy, so pure, that even the seraphim won't touch it directly. And this creature presses this burning coal to Isaiah's lips. Now remember the rules we just talked about. When something pure touches something impure, the impurity spreads. That's how it works, always, except not this time. The seraphim says, "Your guilt is taken away and your sin is atoned for." Isaiah's impurity doesn't contaminate the coal. Instead, the coal's purity transfers to Isaiah. He's not destroyed by holiness, he's transformed by it. This changes everything, because now we're seeing a completely different way that holiness can work. But wait, there's more. Fast forward about 150 years, and another prophet named Ezekiel gets an even more revolutionary vision. He's standing at the temple, but this temple is different. It's a vision of what the temple could become. He sees water beginning to trickle out from under the threshold of the temple. Just a little stream at first. But then his guide leads him further out, and the stream gets deeper. Ankle deep, then knee deep, then waist deep. Eventually, it becomes this massive river flowing through the desert, bringing life everywhere it goes. Trees are growing along its banks. When it reaches the Dead Sea, this body of water so salty that nothing can live in it, Suddenly it's full of fish. The guide tells him, "Wherever the river flows, everything will live." Do you see what's happening here? This is a complete paradigm shift. In the old system, you had to become pure first, then carefully approach God's holiness. But in Ezekiel's vision, God's holiness comes out. It flows out. It makes things pure instead of being contaminated by them. But these are just visions, prophecies, glimpses of something that might be possible someday. Until a carpenter's son from Nazareth shows up and changes everything. Enter Jesus, and this man starts doing things that should be impossible according to everything we've learned about holiness. He walks up to lepers, people so impure they have to shout "unclean" to warn others away, and he touches them, skin-to-skin contact. According to every rule, every protocol, Jesus should now be unclean. He should need purification. He should be disqualified from temple worship. Instead, the leper is healed. Completely. Instantly. He touches a dead body, a young girl who's died. Death is the ultimate impurity in this system. But instead of becoming impure himself, Jesus' purity flows into her. She comes back to life. A woman with chronic bleeding, impure for years according to the law, touches his clothes in desperation. Instead of contaminating Jesus, she's instantly healed. He's like that holy coal in Isaiah's vision, but walking around in human form. And Jesus doesn't stop with the healings. He starts making claims that would be absolutely scandalous to anyone who understood biblical holiness. He says, "I am the temple." Remember, the temple is where God's presence lives on earth. Jesus is claiming to be the dwelling place of God. He says, "Before Abraham was, I am." That phrase, "I am," is the name God gave Moses at the burning bush. The name too holy to speak out loud. But then Jesus makes the most outrageous claim of all. He looks at his ragtag group of followers, fishermen, tax collectors, ordinary people, and he says, "You are the temple of God. Streams of living water will flow from within you." He's saying that Isaiah's coal experience, that's going to be normal for his followers. Ezekiel's river, that's going to flow through ordinary people like you and me. Now, there's a cost to all this, and it comes to a head at the cross. Picture the cross not just as a Roman execution method, but as the ultimate purity transfer. Every broken thing, every evil act, every bit of contamination that separates humanity from God's holiness, Jesus draws it all into himself. And for a moment, the moment when Jesus cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" he experiences what it's like to be cut off from the source of all holiness. The sun of God's presence goes dark for him. But then comes resurrection. Jesus emerges from death not contaminated by it, but having conquered it. Death itself has been purified. And now he says to his followers, "As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." The river is flowing, and it's flowing through us. So where does that leave us? Right here, right now, in 2025? According to Jesus, you and I are living in the middle of Ezekiel's vision. We're part of that river of holiness flowing out into the world. Every time someone chooses forgiveness over revenge, that's the river flowing. Every time someone brings hope into a desperate situation, that's the river flowing. Every time someone touches the untouchable people in our society with dignity and love, that's the river flowing. But here's what I want to ask you, and I really want you to think about this. Are you letting the river flow through you, or are you still living by the old rules, keeping your distance, staying safe, avoiding contamination? Because Jesus said that if you're connected to him, you're no longer in danger from impurity. Instead, you carry purity. You carry healing. You carry life. Maybe you're listening to this and thinking, that's a nice idea, but I'm not holy. I'm not pure. I've done too many wrong things. Thought too many wrong thoughts. Here's the beautiful truth that Isaiah discovered with that burning coal. God's holiness doesn't destroy you because of your impurity. Instead, it transforms your impurity into purity. That transfer happens the moment you stop running from God's holiness and instead run toward it. The moment you say, I want what you're offering. I want to be part of this river. And here's where philosophy meets reality. Because this isn't just some abstract theological concept. This is about how we live every single day. When you understand what holiness really means, it changes how you see everything. You're not just trying to be a good person to earn God's approval. You're not walking on eggshells afraid of contaminating yourself with the messiness of this world. Instead, you become like a piece of the sun that's been sent into the darkness. You can't be overwhelmed by the darkness because you carry the light. You can't be contaminated by impurity because you carry purity. You become someone who can walk into the messiest, most broken situations and bring transformation instead of being transformed by them. But this story isn't over yet. The Bible ends with one final vision of holiness, this time from John. He sees the entire earth transformed into God's temple. Not a building in Jerusalem, but the whole created world pulsing with God's presence. Ezekiel's river is there, but now it's flowing through the middle of a renewed city. The tree of life, remember that from Eden, is growing on both sides of the river, bearing fruit every month, with leaves that heal the nations. John writes, no longer will there be any curse. The throne of God and of the Lamb will be in the city, and his servants will serve him. They will see his face. See his face. Remember, Moses couldn't even see God's back without dying. Remember, Isaiah was terrified just to be in the temple. But in John's vision, we see God's face, the ultimate intimacy with ultimate holiness. That's where this is all heading. A world where holiness doesn't destroy but transforms, where purity doesn't separate but includes, where the river of life flows everywhere. And you get to be part of writing that story. Right here, right now. Every act of love, every moment of forgiveness. Every time you choose to see the image of God in another person, you're participating in that final vision. You're letting the river flow. So here's my challenge for you as we wrap this up. This week, look for one person or situation that feels impure to you, someone you'd rather avoid, some mess you'd rather not touch. And instead of keeping your distance, ask yourself, what would it look like for God's river of holiness to flow through me into this situation? Don't worry about getting contaminated. If you're connected to the source of holiness, you can't be. You can only contaminate the darkness with light, contaminate despair with hope, contaminate hatred with love. Because that's what holy really means. It's not about being separate from the mess of this world. It's about being so connected to the source of all purity that you can dive into the mess and transform it. You are not a candle that can be blown out by the darkness. If you're connected to the source, you're a piece of the sun itself. So go, shine, let the river flow, and watch as the world around you begins to change, one touch of holiness at a time.